everyone, my name is Kartika Nair and you're watching Sinker Shakti. Today we are with Gabriel, who does not need introduction because his YouTube videos are all over YouTube. Gabriel Traveler is his YouTube channel, you might have already seen him. We've been friends for some time and I've been very excited to ask him some really interesting questions on his life. So today let's dive deep into your mind and ask all kinds of interesting questions. So welcome to my channel.
Alright, thanks. Good to be here. Hello everyone.
Awesome. So first, just let our audience know about your journey as a traveler. When did it all begin? How has it been? How many countries have you traveled?
Okay, I am 50 years old and my first international traveling adventure began in May of 1990. So I was about to say 23, but no, 33 years ago. The day after I turned 18, then I was on a plane to London for a summer of backpacking all around Europe, and then I had a flight back 3.5 months later. And so I went to 10 countries on that trip. Very, very low budget. I literally spent about $11 a day in Europe. Of course, it was cheaper 33 years ago, but I had a tent, I had a sleeping bag, I was camping, staying in hostels, hitchhiking. I had a train pass for a couple of the months, and then was hitchhiking and getting around however I could, and had a really great trip. And then for the 1990s, then I didn't go international traveling again. It's a whole long story. I don't want to get too lost in it, but I went back to the United States. I went to university in Alaska for 2 years, and then lived back in California and Oregon and stuff. And then I went on a 5-year, mostly homeless vagabond adventure through the second half of the 1990s, when I was also hitchhiking and working on farms and living in the rainforest of Hawaii, and went back to Alaska again. And then my next international adventure was here to India for 5 months, 1999 to 2000. And then after that, I went back to university for a couple of years.
So 5 years, not 5 months. You said 5 months.
Did I say?
Yeah, you said 5 months.
5 years was the homeless vagabonding.
Okay.
5 months was in India.
Okay.
And then I went back to university, got my degree, moved to Portland, Oregon for 6 years. And then 2006 was really when my big international kind of non-stop adventure began. So in 2006 I came to India again for the second time, my third international trip. And then since then I have traveled every year for a number of months, and especially in the recent years it's become mostly traveling. So and then slowly it went into YouTube. That started to pay part of the traveling costs, and now it's my full-time job, and so I'm a full-time YouTuber.
So when you went to, you said University of Alaska, did you have what did you study, and did you have an idea that you're going to be a full-time traveler?
I certainly didn't know what the future was going to hold, but traveling was definitely an interest of mine. I mean, I'd just come back from my Europe trip. That was really, in my mind, like I had so many great experiences there. And so I certainly wanted to travel more. And I think going to Alaska for university was a traveling experience. I was looking through a book of colleges all around the United States. Did not even, think that there was a university in Alaska.
Yeah.
Alaska starts with an A.
Yeah.
That's at the beginning of the book because it was alphabetical.
Yeah.
So I came across that right away and was like, Alaska, wow. And so that was the only university that I applied to.
Right.
My grades were okay, but not spectacular. So I came back from this Europe trip. I didn't know what I was going to do. It was almost an afterthought of like, oh yeah, I applied to that school, 9 months earlier. And my dad called the university. I didn't even know if I'd been accepted yet.
Yeah.
So my dad called the university. I had been accepted, and he arranged for me to go up there. So I studied creative writing.
Okay.
And
Which
so
you
that
do
is where
because you write books also.
Exactly. So one of my books is a collection of fiction short stories, purely fiction, that I wrote when I was taking creative writing classes in Alaska. One of the stories is set in Alaska, and so I took a semester class, each semester at least one just like short story writing class. And so I collected those stories and then reworked them and made them better.
So how many countries have you been to? You can tell the audience.
85.
85 countries in 33
3 years.
years.
Yeah.
So you kind of knew that your purpose was to travel because you went to Alaska, applied to Alaska University with that thing of I get to travel. So there was a clue right there that that's your purpose. What if somebody was to ask you, if somebody here is struggling to find their purpose in life, what advice would you give them? What have you learned about this whole thing called purpose in your journey?
Great question. I mean, it comes down to what are you interested in, what gets you excited, what fits with your, personality and what you're going to be, driven to do versus trying to force yourself to do something.
Yeah.
Certainly what is within your capabilities, but I think that is kind of the big lesson for a lot of us is expanding our capabilities and what we think is possible
For us.
based on money and, our fears and our social situation and the constrictions of society and all this. Basically, all of those are flexible and malleable, and so don't let those hold you back, much.
Right.
I've done all of this traveling, most of it on way less money than most people, pay on rent in a, typical apartment or whatever. I haven't had the, the responsibilities of children and, a fancy new car that I have to make payments on and stuff like that. I've kept things very simple.
So you just channeled your money into your passion, which is to travel.
Yeah, it's been mostly spent on travel.
On travel.
I mean, my only expenses are traveling now because I don't have an apartment. I have virtually no bills.
You've lived off of a suitcase basically for 33
Backpack.
years.
Yeah.
Backpack.
Yeah.
He's lived off a backpack for 33 years. So this brings me to my next question, which is a very important question. So the times that we have met, although in Switzerland we didn't have any crazy experiences, but the time we met here in Bangalore, we had some crazy experiences. So I had this question to ask him. In 33 years, to have met so many people, had so many experiences, what was the biggest highlighted experience of these 33 years that you just cannot get out of him? I know it's a large question.
So many different, things to choose from, like which country.
I don't want you to think in terms of countries. I want you to think in terms of what was the most impactful experience.
Single sort of experience.
Or couple, that's okay.
Yeah, and maybe involving people. That whole first India trip in general was just a totally life-changing
It would have probably been really
journey.
bizarre for you to come from where you come from and then to come to a country like this.
Yeah. I mean, landing in let's just say, I have so many experiences to try to track through that it's tough to pick something. But let's just say, like my first few days in India, because there was a whole series of experiences there, like of various types. So I booked this. So where to begin this story? So let's start it with, I'm back in California. I have booked the flight and mailed my passport to get my Indian visa.
Okay.
2 days before my flight, my passport has not come back yet. And so it has to come the next day. I think that I called the Indian embassy in San Francisco and asked them, and they said it's in the mail. It should be there. And so this trip starts, with a bit of stress and trust in the universe. And so sure enough, it comes the next day. And then the next day I get on the plane. And I had 4 different flights. I had a layover in London, a layover in Muscat, Oman. I feel like there was a third one somewhere and I can't remember. But anyways, a very long flight, 40 hours, something like that. And so I land in Delhi and I am just a complete wreck, almost no sleep. I can't sleep on planes. And so a friend had recommended this hotel, the Vivek Hotel in Paharganj, and he said that's a good place to stay, to shoot for. I had no idea really where to, which parts of Delhi or whatever. And so I tried to take the taxi, and of course the taxi driver pulls the classic scam of pretending that the hotel is full. And so he calls his friend on the phone.
Pretending that the hotel is?
That the hotel that I'm trying to go to, the Vivek Hotel, is full.
Oh, okay.
Because online booking wasn't really, maybe it was a thing, I don't know, but I wasn't doing it. The internet was young then. And so I didn't have a reservation. And so he even pulls over into this office and has me come into the office, and the guy is acting like he's a tourist guy. And then he calls the hotel. I think that's how it worked, because cell phones weren't as popular either. So we go into this place, he calls him, and then I talk to some person, and he says, "Oh yeah, Vivek Hotel. Oh yeah, we're all full tonight." And so this guy says, "Oh well, I know a hotel."
Pulled and elaborate. It was well thought of. Yeah.
Exactly. And so he takes me to this other hotel. Now, my memory of the taxi ride from the airport into Paharganj, into Delhi, was so different from now, because now there's all kinds of above ground freeways. It's, you know, it's quite developed and everything. At the time, there was no above ground freeway. It was just the surface streets. And it was just so thick. I mean, I'm just seeing like all these, you know, cows and water buffaloes, and there was just so much going on. It was night, so it was dark. There's not really many street lights. There's just like lots of, I don't know, gas lamps or random, you know, electric lights or whatever. But it was really, really another world. And so
what was, I mean, you spoke about trust in the universe, but which I'm sure you've had a lot of traveling to 85 countries. But what was going through your mind at that time when you're in this bizarre place? You're seeing, firstly, cattle on the street, seeing lots of people for the first time. What was going on in your mind?
It was beyond even what I expected, because I knew India was going to be totally different, but it was like a whole other level than what I could have been prepared for, you know, especially, you know, 23 years ago. So it was intense, it was exciting. I was just totally spaced out, could barely take it all in because I was so tired out. I was loving it at the same time that I was a little freaky.
It was freaky. So I have to ask you this question. How many times have you come to India?
This was my 12th trip.
12th time. So most of our audience is actually Indian. I'm sure they would like to know, what do you love about India that makes you keep coming back for more?
Okay. Shall I finish that story, because there's more to it?
Yes.
And then we'll get to that.
Go ahead.
He takes me to the hotel, and it was an expensive hotel at the time. I remember it was 800 rupees, which is about $20. So it still wasn't.
Basically a white man thing.
It's still. I mean, it was still.
He probably just looked at you and he said 800 rupees.
Yeah.
I have no way to prove it, but
but still, it was $20. It was not, you know, like I got majorly ripped off, and it was a nice hotel.
Okay, was $20 okay those days? Is it not expensive?
This was over my daily budget,
Okay.
but it was no big deal for the first day. And so I stayed there only one night. The next day I get into Paharganj and go find the Vivek Hotel, and they I think they had plenty of rooms the previous night, and everything worked out.
So you realized that you got scammed on the first day.
Exactly, but it, you know, could have been better, could have been worse.
Right.
And so I spend a few days in Delhi, and then I get the train to Haridwar, and I go to Rishikesh because a friend had recommended Rishikesh as a good place to go.
Yeah, it's a good
And so on the bus from Haridwar to Rishikesh, then I meet a Israeli guy who just like sits next to me, and super nice guy. We start talking. He's just arrived in India, I think, as well. He's going to Rishikesh, and we like just really connect. And then he says maybe we should share a hotel room together. I said okay, sure. And so we spent the next week sharing a hotel in Rishikesh, and then I saw him like 3 more times at different places on that India trip. So that just kind of captures a bit of like the bad stuff that can happen, and then how it all works out, and how you meet people, and you still have these amazing experiences. And so like don't let the bad things get you down too much. Just move on.
Okay, so that's one of the spiritual lessons that you...
Exactly.
So we will get to that question, but first we'd love to go back to the question of, you've come back to India 12 times. What is it that you love about this country, and what keeps calling you back?
So my last video was literally on this topic.
Yeah.
It was the 10 reasons why you should travel to India. And so I'll just go through those same 10 reasons.
Yeah.
So the first one was just the diversity of the country and how much there is to see.
Yeah.
It's a big country, first of all. The diversity in terms of landscapes, you know, everything from cities to villages, Himalayas, mountains, tropics, beaches, deserts, more temples than you can see in your entire lifetime. also the cultural diversity of 22 official languages or 20 official languages or whatever. And different types of food from different parts of the country, etc. So one of the things that just keeps bringing me back is I still have a very long list of places that I want to see in India that I haven't been to yet. The Spiti Valley and Gujarat and Kerala. And
you've not been to Kerala?
I've never been to Kerala. The whole Northeast Seven Sisters.
Oh, so you have quite many trips to come. Okay.
Lakshadweep Islands. I haven't been to Amritsar, the Golden Temple.
Oh, okay. But I have a question. Of course, I'm going to ask you to continue this list. But of all the travel vlogs that I have seen of yours, you go to literally towns that no one's heard of. Really go into the villages. You go into the local buses where people are like squeezed up till here. What drives you to get into that kind of experience instead of taking like an AC car into like a tourist spot instead of like these super local places?
Partly it's just more interesting to find those out of the way places. Even on my first trip, I was just interested in the tourist places. I wanted to go see Paris and London, but I was also looking for more out-of-the-way places. I think it's just my general travel curiosity. And as far as India, then the more you come, the more you learn. And that's one of the things that really brings me back, is that there is so much to see beyond the main tourist places. And so you'll just hear about places, like I mentioned Chitradurga. Then I only heard about that, a few days ago. Looked at images online and it looked really cool. So that's actually where I recorded this video talking about the 10 reasons why you should come to India. And it's just a lot more interesting than just going to the places where you're surrounded by tourists.
So you get to see the local way of life beyond what's shown on TV.
It's more adventurous. It's more exciting. It pushes you more. I spent 2 weeks in West Bengal and Sikkim in the Himalayas, and I can't think if I saw a single other, Western traveler in that whole time, and that's exciting. So.
Right, that's exciting to you. So your list, you've given me 3 things. You said the diversity of the people, not having seen a lot of people. I mean,
that was all number 1, actually.
That was number 1. Okay.
The diversity
so we have 9 more to go.
But you mentioned the food, and so that was one of them.
Yeah.
The people and the friendliness and the interactions that you have. You have so much more interactions with people here than like if you go to Switzerland or something. People don't care about you. I mean, they can still be friendly and everything, but
they won't go out of their way.
They're not going to come up to you and want to talk to you or whatever. So in India, you get a lot of
I saw in
local
Hampi, you were walking and then there was this lady who was like, "Namaste, welcome," in the vlog, in the Hampi vlog. She was like sitting by the river where you were reading. You had all this information about those pillars, 65 pillars, and then she just said, "Namaste, welcome."
Exactly.
You don't. Right.
Welcome to it. They'll just say, "Welcome to India."
Yeah, and then in the same vlog, I think there was a bunch of girls who were walking. They just jumped around the camera and they're like, "Hello."
Yeah.
Right. So you come back because of. Also, okay. So this is like one of the final questions. How have meeting all these people, going to these really middle of nowhere places, how has that grown you spiritually as a person?
I mean, it really expands your mind and your perspective on humanity, on how to live life, and the different ways that life can be lived. It opens up your whole perspective of just the possibilities of what you can do in life. That you don't have to be constricted to just
people can be
the
happy
basic.
without a lot of things. People can live in many different ways than having to live in a specific way. To me, like personally, I've also traveled, not like you, but to some extent. And what I've seen, how that's affected me spiritually, is understanding that people are the same. Humanity is the same. People feel, connect. I've never been to America, for example, but I don't see a difference between 2 human beings. Especially when you go outside, everybody becomes a family. It's not so separate anymore as what you see on TV. So it grows you to understand compassion and connect at a human level, and the separation of wiped out as well in my country, your country, it becomes more of a human experience.
Yeah.
So did you find something like that in your experience also?
Yeah, definitely. I certainly kind of identify more as a world citizen than, rah rah America or whatever.
Right.
And then another component of that is the trusting the universe concept of, as I said, bad things can happen, and then don't get hung up on that because things can turn around, and you come to more of a, like speaking of, taking the local buses or whatever, it's easier just to get a taxi to where you're going and know there's going to be, it's going to be quite straightforward, most likely. I mean, you can always break down or whatever, but if you have an adventurous spirit, then you don't, it's not about just getting there as quick as possible. It's about
the experience.
Yeah. Putting yourself in the more unknown situations is a catalyst for growth, and for trusting the universe more, and it's just more fun than keeping things safe and easy. It depends on what kind of a life you want to live, but if you just want life to be kind of comfortable and predictable, that's fine. That, lots of people, that's a priority. And I certainly appreciate comfort as well, but that's kind of boring to me 24/7, and so, I mean, I'm happy to experience some luxury. I like staying in 5-star hotels sometimes. I've done all-inclusives. I've done taxi rides, from from Badami to Hampi. I got a taxi, partly because I also wanted to visit some temples along the way, so it was like a day tour. But I still do, pay for taxis. It just depends on what I feel like. I mean, sometimes you're just like, I don't want the big, crazy bus trip.
So you go with what you feel like having, what experience you're being called to. So you mentioned, and I think I will end with this, is you were talking about how you were at this national park in California, and then your car breaks down, and then you find people, one car that comes, and then these guys happen to be mechanics, and then they connect you to somebody, and then there's always like these dots that connect, which it's like the whole trust in the universe thing. There is a whole unknown, but as a traveler you really embrace the unknown, but somehow everything ends up working out for you. So if somebody hears, I know Gabe also has a spiritual channel, it's called
Inner Quest.
So it was called Kundalini something.
Exactly, it was Gabriel Kundalini, and I recently changed it. I just
Okay.
posted my first video in 6 years,
Yeah?
informing my viewers that I changed the channel name and giving an
okay.
update. Yeah.
Okay, so Inner Quest, and in that you interview people like Peel Swan is one of them, and many different people, and you share about your spiritual journey. So somebody here wants your take on life, on spirituality, what would you tell them? Like what is spirituality to you?
What does spirituality mean? I think it's recognizing, believing, since we don't know for certain, that there is another realm beyond the physical, and that this experience of being a human on Earth it's for fun and learning. We're here to enjoy the experience. It isn't just about just learning lessons. It's here to enjoy the experience, but also to learn stuff. And so to embrace this life as an opportunity to learn and expand and grow as much as possible, while simultaneously having a awareness of another realm that may or may not exist, but that I think it's safe to say both of us believe does exist.
This channel, we all believe that it's a spiritual channel. So yes, you can say it. It depends on your experience of it, not just intellectual opinion. But you said you had a Kundalini experience. I don't know a lot about that part of the story. But so what you said is your concept of spirituality is, do you believe that we kind of chose to incarnate here on this planet and have these learnings and growth? You believe that?
Yeah, for sure. Certainly. And that it's about our evolution as a non-spiritual being, whatever that is, a spirit, soul, whatever, that it's all a progression, and this life is just, one section of our, entire soul existence, and that we're going to come out of this different from how we came into it. And so take advantage of that, you know,
Yeah.
for the sake of whatever comes next
Yeah.
after this as well. So it's a simultaneous awareness of be here now, and right now we're a human being having a human experience, but we are a spiritual being having a human being experience.
Yes.
And so
there's the next level of
enjoy it, you know, learn about this world and everything, and then also be aware of that this isn't all that there is.
So fully experience the earth part of the journey, and then there's the next part of it.
Yeah, kind of like university.
Yeah.
You know that there's something that comes after university.
Yeah.
You want to have fun. You probably want to go to some parties and get drunk and be a little crazy, but you also need to graduate, and you want to learn something, and you want to have a better job
Yeah.
when you know, than if you fail out or drop out or whatever. And so you want to make the most of it and learn what you can.
So your personal.
But something else is coming
Yeah,
next, and
something
that's
else
what you're
is
getting
coming.
ready for.
So, do you take from different religions and cultures and spiritualities and create your own based on your experience?
Definitely. I mean, I wouldn't, you know, I couldn't define exactly what that is or whatever, but
Yeah.
yes.
But it's a mix, so it's based on your subjective experiences in life.
Yes.
So, do you believe that there is a incarnation, like the soul incarnates several times in several lifetimes in order to keep expanding and learning through it?
I do, yes.
Okay. So we can keep talking about a lot of interesting things here, but in fact, funny thing, for all the times we met before, I never told him the story of how his channel had inspired me. And it was when I was going through panic disorder, I saw his video on Dharamsala, and at the time I couldn't leave my house, and my soul wanted to expand and live, but I was confined in the four walls of my house, and I was panicking constantly. There was no peace in my spirit. And I saw I don't know if I discovered you, like on how I discovered, I don't know. I found you on YouTube, I saw your video, and I put myself like in that bus going through those experiences just to give myself hope that I didn't have hope that I'd ever get out of the house. It was like a dead end. There was no way. But your video gave me that hope that, you know what, maybe one day I'll also be traveling. And I don't remember how we got in contact.
12 or 13 or something.
12.
Maybe 13. If that was the video.
Yeah. So
that you
maybe,
came across.
maybe
That was the end of
we can.
2012.
So the question that came up for me when you were sharing is, you were talking about these incredible, the shock when you came to India for the first time. And when you are in difficult situations, it expands you as a person. So when you are faced with something, do you get extremely present and try to figure out what you can do? For example, when your car breaks down in the middle of the forest, or you can't find a trail back, what is your mental process to get you out of those difficult situations you find yourself in?
Yeah, good question. I mean, it's all about seeing what you're realistic, what are your options? You know, after I got out of the wilderness with the truck, and then I was telling her the story earlier. It's too long of a story to tell the whole thing here, but the short version is I'm in a tiny little town with a broken down truck and a mechanic. This is in Northern California, the area where I'm from, and the mechanic is going into surgery the next day, and the mechanic then is going to be closed and he can't fix the truck that day. So I'm in a tiny town with one mechanic who can't fix the truck. I'm a long ways from anywhere else. What are my options? So my options seem to be either tow it to the next town, which was going to be really expensive and I had very little money at the time, or just abandon the truck, cut my losses, hitchhike out of there, and go home. And then I thought of a third option, which was to offer to sell my truck to the mechanic. And this worked, and he bought it. And so
you need to have presence of mind in those moments.
Yeah,
You can't
to
panic in
consider
those
what
moments.
you know, think outside the box a bit, and what are some creative solutions to this particular situation.
So you've encountered a lot of situations. I know your stories here in Bangalore itself, but when you were on a hiking trail and you did not know your way back, and you had food that was depleting, and you had time that was depleting, and either you can keep trying to trust your intuition on where it's taking you, but you can either be getting closer to where you need to go or further away. So what is your process at that point to make sure that you're staying grounded and you don't panic and then end up like making the wrong decision?
Yeah, at that point, then you're, kind of in survival mode, and that panic definitely comes up, and that's what can really cloud you and kill you.
Yes.
And so you have to kind of keep that at bay and just try to stay centered and grounded and rationally thinking as best as you can. In that particular situation, then basically I was hiking on a trail that I hadn't covered that section of the trail before, and going back to get out of the wilderness, and then the trail disappeared. It just slowly, like not all of a sudden, but it got smaller and smaller, and so I would, try to find it here and there, and then I wasn't sure what was a trail and what was just a deer trail or whatever. I had a map of the area, and so my only option was to try to get to one of the other trails that I had been on before that I knew was going to be reliable. And so that's what I did. And yeah, and I had to do a bit of stumbling around, and it was a few hours of.
When you're doing a lot of these things alone, for example, we were talking about when you were at a campsite and then there's a bear and you're alone, and then the bear starts running towards you, and then you have this, suddenly you take the bowl, you clean out the bowl and you start hitting it, and then the bear runs away. Firstly, crazy experiences, grows you definitely as a human being. You're not the same after a bear tries to jump at you, but at the same time, you do these things alone. Do you like overcome fear to do it alone, or is it just something that calls you to do it?
I guess partly it's just I'm used to it. I've been doing this all my life. I was raised in the woods in Northern California, and would go on, hikes and stuff in the woods around our house by myself. So this is just, it's part of who I am.
Okay.
It wasn't, it's not like I was in Los Angeles and thought, let's just go, go into the wilderness. And so partly it's just, this wilderness area where I tell the story from, I had been to as a child with my family.
Right.
And then partly it's just my nature, I guess. Not everybody wants to do
Things alone, yeah.
that kind of stuff.
And this, speaking a bit symbolically, if I was to categorize your life, it's kind of symbolic for people, like life in general. You've gone, you don't know what's coming up in your travels, you don't know what's going to happen, but you have this trust and surrender that you're going to have a good time, which is a great metaphor for life. Is you don't know what's going to happen. You can set out your intentions, but you still need to have presence of mind, be in the moment, let the smaller things go, the tough things go, and then keep going on, and just trust that you're going to have a good time. What would be your greatest advice to people when it comes to life advice? Something that you feel is a wisdom you could always, like if you had a child or something, you would put that wisdom onto them. What would you tell my audience to help them navigate through their life?
Look and then leap. So don't leap blindly. A balance between preparation and
Trust.
and going into the unknown. Like, you don't want to be too cautious, you don't want to be too reckless. And so finding a balance between, living life so safely that you don't really experience much, beyond the norm, versus, being reckless in ways that endanger you, that endanger others, that don't embody, a rational approach to life that leads, puts you in some sort of control. Because you want to be sort of a balance between going with the flow and controlling where you're going.
Yeah, so it shouldn't be totally blind. You should have some sort of perspective.
Yeah, you don't want to just let life carry you along as if you have no say in it.
Yeah.
But you don't want to think that you are in control of everything either.
Got it. So there is a co-creation happening. There's a surrender happening. There is intentions from your side as well.
And I think knowing when to take the reins and when to just relax and enjoy the ride.
Right. That's interesting. Knowing when to take the reins.
That's a critical thing. Is that point at which you realize, this has gotten out of hand. This thing is, whatever this experience is taking me somewhere I don't want to go anymore. It's time to jump ship get off the bus, metaphorically or literally or whatever.
So have you, I don't know about you, but I have done these things called intuition walks where I would just go and I'd let my intuition guide me into whether to take the left turn or the right turn and just go, and I would have an intention before I went to the walk that I'm going to stumble upon something that has meaning for a question that I'm asking. I know that you follow your intuition, that's how you got out of that trail in the first place. Have you ever done intuition walks before?
I've never heard of the concept, but I think that's what I do
generally
daily.
Right.
You know, I go out and I just walk around a city and I go this direction because it looks interesting or whatever. I would say that's pretty much like kind of what my life is all about, is
you
intuition
are a
walks.
random intuition walk
Yeah.
the whole life. So where are you going from here, from India?
I'm flying to Bangkok tonight for only 3 days. I've been there many times before, and then flying to Australia, to Sydney, and then I don't know exactly where I'm going there yet. So I will be figuring that out in the
exciting.
coming days.
So you have all of our blessings for a really good and great time in Australia and in Bangkok, and here's to meeting again maybe another 50 times in our lifetime,
I hope so.
and keep traveling and keep rocking.
All right, absolutely, and same to you.
Thank you again, guys.
Safe travels, everyone.
Yes, thank you again, and we will catch Gabe in his next adventure. You can check out his channel in the description, and again, like this video if you liked it, comment, subscribe, share with other travel people, and we'll see you guys.
Take care.